Hello, I'm Nelson Ford at the Gunsmith in Phoenix, Arizona. And today we're going to talk about something people have asked me to talk about, but there's not a lot of players in this field, and that's Roper grips. Walter Roper was a real character, and I'll talk about him today. I first saw Roper grips on guns my dad brought home from probably Maury Resnick at 601 North Central, the Jewel Box. And that was in Phoenix, and it was a pawn shop. Maury advertised 7,000 guns for sale. And it was amazing back then because everything wasn't behind the counter. And a lot of Phoenix shops, they have them out, I guess. But there were racks that you could walk down and look at Winchester 12s and 97s and 37 Ithacas and all the greatest pump shotguns that they made. And of course, there would be military rifles and all kinds of O3s and Garands, and they were relatively inexpensive then. And my dad would look at these different older um, Colts and Smiths. That's what he was into, revolvers. And Maury would say, that one's got a set of ropers on it. And that was a big deal, ropers. And at the time, they were like, uh, originally they were much less, but they were like considered a $300 accessory on a Smith or a Colt revolver. And they also had them on automatics and other types of guns. But my dad liked the ropers and he liked the old revolvers, and it had a big effect on me. And there's a lot of things we should know about Walter Roper. We know him for the grips, and it's kind of funny because uh, uh, Matthias Gagne cut the grips out, and there are pictures of Matthias working with his bow tie on and cutting it, the checkering, and he made the grips. And you can always tell the grips were made to a certain pattern, and then they got a final fit on the inside. You could always tell that they were cut for the gun. You had to send in a picture of your hand or a drawing of your hand so that they could get the dimensions right for your particular hand. The frames did limit how small they could make the grips because you couldn't make them any smaller than the frame. Don't tell that to any LAPD grip maker because I think Fuzzy Ferrant and Starkey or Sharkey and some of those guys that Matt talks about did cut the frames. But I've never seen frames cut for ropers. And so, what we should know about Walter Roper, the guns, it's a misnomer because Walter Roper was a designer and an engineer. He went to MIT, Massachusetts. Um, and his father was an engineer and his grandfather was an engineer. There's so much to say, I can't get it all out at once. But he was the designer, but Matthias Gagne was the one who actually cut the grips out. And if we just want to touch on Walter Roper a little bit, he was an engineer. His father was an engineer. His father patented a bunch of very useful items, and he made strides in simplifying appliances that people used in their homes. He had patents. He made a certain propeller for boats. He made a gauge that you dropped on your Ford. You put it in. The gas tank was right in front of the windshield on the early Fords, right in the center in front of your windshield. And you would take that off and you would put his device in there with this floater, and it could show you how much gas you had. Prior to that, you kept a stick in your car and you'd stick a stick in there to check and look at the wet part of the stick, and that's how much gas you had left. But that was his father, Charles. And they grew up, I know as they grew up on 50 Freedom Avenue, Worcester, Massachusetts, I think, and were named like Worcester. And his father was involved with civically with the town, and he was a designer, and he a patent guy. He became an engineer at a local company, and then his son Walter Roper went to work in the same department as his father as a design and function and engineer testing. Going back beyond his father Charles, you have Sylvester, and now we're getting back into the earlier 1800s. Sylvester, in the later years of his life, which would have been after 1850, he was never accredited with making the first motorcycle, but he made a steam-powered bicycle that went almost 40 miles an hour. And so Roper's grandfather should be credited for making the first motorcycle. Um, but then his father did all the different designing. He did a lot of designing. And then at some point, he got stuck on firearms, and he had his own front sights and rear sights. And then he got lost in the grips. These are all made out of, almost all made out of French walnut. And Matthias Gagne did all the cutting. And he didn't talk about Matthias a lot because he didn't want somebody buying them from him. But Walter Roper wrote books, the experiments of a handgunner. He also wrote pistol and revolver shooting. They made grips from the 30s to the 50s. And in the 50s, everything was getting automated to some degree. And they kind of lost their love. And this is a pair of Walter Ropers, the way I like to think of them. French walnut, hand-cut checkering. You can always see the overruns and the mistakes in the grips. And on the inside, they always had the jig marks where it held the grips while Matthias was cutting the checkering. But this is a pair of grips I bought off, coincidentally, a guy named Matthias. And it has, this is a post-war, late post-war. This is when they went to automated checkering. And so there are no overruns. The finish is shiny. It doesn't have that flat look that you have from what I call the original Ropers. But this is sort of of all the Ropers, people have brought me several guns. I again ask my customers, whoever had Ropers, bring them to me. And I wanted to be able to show you guys different guns with Ropers. This is the only pair that I've ever heard of or seen. And I remember my father bringing home a new service in 45 Colt. And had I known what it was, it's one of 100, a shooting master. That's what it was. And there was only 100 in 45 Colt. There was 500 in 357, and there was 2,500 in 38 special. Then it breaks down. There were like one or two in 22 cal, and they made a few in other unusual calibers. But the 45 Colt new service was a really rare one, and it had a large pair, and it didn't have the thumb rest. And that's another thing I should talk about. The thumb rest, here's two Smith and Wessons here. The thumb rest is not revered by most, but I think it's certainly part of history. And of course, the Harrods made them later, I think into the 70s, or maybe still make some of them. But there's another thing I want to get on sometime, and that's Sanderson also made quite a few with the thumb rest. And their checkering, they look a lot like the King Sight Company thumb rest target grip. But I think King was like 12 lines per inch, and Sanderson was more like 16. These all fall around the 14 or 15 line per inch, I believe. Just the ribbon, for those of you that aren't Roper people, the ribbon is one of his classic designs. The diamond around the screw, they're all slightly flared that I've noticed at the bottom, and they sort of are slim. They're slim grips, and they all seem to have that same color to them. These are some Colts here. These are all super targets that are here, and there's a Colt that has the cockeyed hammer, and the Ropers are they just belong on King Super Targets. It's funny that all the guns that were brought to me were King Super Targets with the ropers on them. And so there's a thumb rest Colt and a non-thumb rest Colt. Again, more cockeyed hammers. I did have a customer tell me this was a very unusual permutation. It's got that forward leaning part on the roper grip there, emulating sort of what Tyler T did later, filling that area to put you in line with the trigger rather than above it. But this is a Colt Peacemaker in 357 with a pair of ropers on it. Of course, a little bit of a swell at the bottom. They don't have the ribbon style on that side, but they do on this side. So there's so much to talk about with these things. Um, Copies. We have the Ultimas today, which is a fine attempt. They're trying to put what looks like a roper on a lot of people's Smith and Wessons today, and I think it's nice, but it looks so far from the truth. You know, it's not the flat finish with this type of checkering. It's they're slimmer and straighter, and they don't have curves to them, and they're probably easier to make. And the color of the wood is all wrong; it's all too light. There was one king of grips, a grip maker named Keith Brown, and he was magic, pure magic. He still is, but I understand he works for a very limited scope of people now. But he took everything that was good in American grips and copied it perfectly, if not did it better. He would use a more decorated or more figured wood, harder woods, a little harder to checker, I'm sure. He fit them to the utmost perfection. He would ask you to send a drawing of your hand. In particular, he wanted to get the height of your index. Um, he did Kearsarge. Here's a name people don't know. Kearsarge grips. I had 3 pairs of them once. Had I known that they weren't going to be so available later, I would have never turned them loose. But they had oak leaves on them, and they were generally a lighter color of wood. And he just copies or emulates them to the nth degree. The guy is a master grip maker. Um, he and Matthias Gagne are probably the 2 finest grip makers that ever lived. And I know that he got overwhelmed. I'm sure he got overwhelmed making grips, and so that he had to kind of turn it off or shut it down and just work for a select few. And that's what people have to do. It's very important to keep your mind about you. But Keith Brown is a god amongst grip makers. He's still alive today, I should say, extent. He is the greatest grip maker extent. I do have a box that I bought from a friend who also sold me these end frame thumb rest ropers. This is the box showing the date from the 1930s of Walter Roper grips being shipped with his label on the box, which is really neat. So I'm not sure what I've covered or not covered. It's amazing having these super targets in front of me. I've been asked not to mention the names of the owners, um, but they're all here with beautiful Roper grips on them. So if you have any questions on Gagne, Matthias Gagne or Walter Roper, the whole family they were all engineers. As far back as I could read or find on them, and they were they were civically dedicated and hard workers. And Roper, I know a bunch of his guns came through my shop with Roper sights on them, and I never learned about them until I got the books by Walter Roper about the sights. So much stuff came through my shop. You know, the Magnificent Five from Los Angeles that made all different grips. I know I saw a ton of them with the frames cut on the front. I was smart enough to know what the ropers were because my dad brought them home to my house and showed me. My dad loved guns. very much. And I think that's how I got stuck on him. Like I say, it's a sickness. So ask me any questions you can about Walter Roper. His whole family was wonderful engineers, and we owe a debt of gratitude to him. Thanks for watching.